The autumn air carried the scent of roasted corn and apple cider across New Haven Colony's central plaza. Colored lights hung between prefabricated buildings, giving the frontier settlement a festive glow despite being millions of miles from Earth. Children laughed as they played traditional games while adults enjoyed the brief respite from their usual hard work. The colony's annual harvest festival was the one time everyone relaxed their guard. Frank Rivers watched from his security post, his weathered face showing both contentment and vigilance. 20 years as a Marine hadn't disappeared during his 5 years on New Haven. His eyes constantly scanned the perimeter even as he smiled at passing colonists. "All quiet tonight, Chief?" asked Meg, his young deputy. "So far," Frank replied, tapping the pulse rifle at his side. "But I don't like how the long-range scanners have been glitching lately." Near the edge of the settlement, where the protective dome met the colony's farm fields, a group of children played hide-and-seek among storage containers. Lily and Noah Bennett, 10-year-old twins with matching blonde hair, counted loudly while their friends scattered. 48, 49, 50, ready or not?" Lily shouted, opening her eyes. Noah pointed toward a large supply crate. "I bet Kevin's hiding there." 12-year-old Kevin Martinez was indeed crouched behind the crate, while 8-year-old Emma Wright had climbed inside an empty one nearby. The other children were hidden among farming equipment and behind barrels. None of them noticed the shimmer in the air above them as the colony's protective shield briefly fluctuated. Frank's communicator buzzed. "Chief, we've got an anomaly on the outer sensors," came the voice from the control center. Frank straightened immediately. "Details?" "Can't tell. Something's interfering with our—" The transmission cut off. The first explosion hit the communications array, sending a plume of smoke into the evening sky. Colonists froze, then began running in confusion. Frank grabbed his rifle and sprinted toward the blast. "Security team, full alert. Evacuate civilians to shelter bunkers," he shouted into his comm unit. By the farm containers, the children huddled, together in fear as 3 more explosions hit around the colony perimeter. "We should get back to the main square," Kevin said, trying to sound brave despite his shaking voice. Before they could move, a low humming sound filled the air. The children looked up to see a dark ship hovering directly above them, its hull covered in jagged protrusions that made it look like a floating sea urchin. A pale blue light shot down from the vessel's underside. "Run!" Noah screamed, grabbing his sister's hand. They didn't make it 3 steps before the light expanded, freezing them in place. Emma Wright cried out as she felt herself being lifted off the ground. One by one, the children rose into the air toward the waiting ship. Frank saw it happening as he raced across the plaza. "No!" he roared, raising his rifle and firing repeatedly at the alien vessel. The shots bounced harmlessly off its hull. More security personnel arrived, all firing desperately at the ship. Frank grabbed a heavy launcher from another guard and fired a plasma charge that briefly disrupted the blue light. 2 children dropped a few feet before being caught again by the beam. Frank watched in helpless rage as Lily and Noah Bennett, Kevin Martinez, Emma Wright, and 3 other children vanished into the ship's hold. The vessel immediately ascended, absorbing their defensive fire without apparent damage. Just before the ship accelerated away, a small object dropped from it, landing with a thud near Frank's feet. He approached cautiously, weapon raised. It was a metallic disc about the size of his palm. The disc activated automatically, projecting a holographic message. A reptilian alien face appeared, vertical pupils narrowing as it spoke in a surprisingly understandable voice. "Your offspring will serve in the great mines of Zeltor. Resistance is futile. The Vrakian Confederacy thanks you for your contribution." The message ended, leaving Frank standing in stunned silence as emergency sirens wailed. Across the colony, around him, parents began to scream as they realized what had happened. Within minutes, the colony's governor was beside him, face pale with shock. "Send the emergency signal to Earth Alliance," Frank said, his voice deadly calm. "Tell them exactly what happened here." His eyes remained fixed on the sky where the ship had disappeared. "Those aliens have no idea what they've just done." The emergency message from New Haven Colony reached Earth Alliance headquarters in less than 6 hours. Admiral Patricia Winters received the news while reviewing fleet deployments in her office overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Her face hardened as she watched the footage of the alien abduction. "Get me the Alliance Council," she ordered her aide. "Priority Alpha. And find Daniel Clark from Intelligence." 30 minutes later, the 12 members of the Earth Alliance Security Council gathered in the crisis room. The air felt heavy with tension as Admiral Winters played the colony's distress call. 7 children taken, she said after the recording ended. The youngest just 8 years old. Council member Gregory Bell shook his head. "Who are these Vrakians? We've never encountered them before." Daniel Clark, a thin man with tired eyes, stepped forward. "We have, sir, but not directly." He brought up a star map on the main screen. "The Vrakian Confederacy controls this sector. They're known for their slave trade across multiple systems." "Slavers?" Another council member spat the word. "Yes," Daniel nodded. "Our intelligence suggests they raid weaker species for labor. Until now, they've avoided human territory." Patricia studied the alien message again. "These mines of Zeltor. What do we know about them?" "Very little," Daniel admitted. "Zeltor is likely deep in Vrakian space. The mines are rumored to be brutal. Few slaves survive more than a few years there." The room went silent. Patricia could feel the anger building around the table. "We've been maintaining peace with neighboring species," Council Chair Eliza Denton finally said. "But this crosses every boundary. They took our children." Patricia stepped forward. "I propose activating Protocol Nemesis." Several council members gasped. Protocol Nemesis was created after the Centauri conflict, but had never been implemented. It authorized unlimited military response to existential threats against humanity. "Taking our children is a declaration of war," Patricia continued, her voice steady. "These Vrakians need to learn that humans protect their young at all costs." The GAM vote was unanimous. Protocol Nemesis was activated, and Admiral Winters was given full authority to respond to the threat. Within the hour, she summoned Commander William Carter to her office. He was a decorated veteran with a reputation for getting impossible jobs done. "I need a special team," she told him. "Small, fast, and lethal. Their mission is to retrieve those children before we bring the full might of the fleet down on these slavers." William nodded. "I know exactly who to call." By nightfall, 4 specialists had arrived at Earth's orbital military station. Major Susan Gray was a Special Forces tactical expert with 20 successful hostage retrievals to her name. Lieutenant Jack Alvarez could hack any system ever built, and was equally skilled with advanced weapons. Dr. Lisa Owens was the Alliance's leading xenobiologist, able to identify weaknesses in any alien species. Ryan Miller had spent years in the shadowy corners of the galaxy as an intelligence operative. "You'll be taking the Retribution," William told them as they gathered in the briefing room. He pulled up schematics of a sleek black ship. "It's our newest stealth vessel, fast enough to reach Vrakian space in days instead of weeks." "Our mission parameters?" Susan asked, already reviewing the tactical displays. Admiral Winters entered the room. The team stood at attention. "Your primary objective is the recovery of the children," she said. "Your secondary objective is gathering intelligence on Vrakian defenses and weaknesses." "And if we encounter resistance?" Jack asked. Patricia's eyes narrowed. "Show them exactly what happens when someone takes human children." On the view screen behind her, the images of the 7 missing children appeared. The Bennett twins, Kevin Martinez, Emma Wright, and 3 others. Their young faces looked out at the team being sent to save them. "The Retribution departs in 1 hour," William announced. "While you conduct the rescue, we'll prepare the fleet. These Vrakians have no idea what they've unleashed." As the team left to prepare, Dr. Owens reviewed the scant data on Vrakian biology. Susan Gray studied maps of the alien sector. Jack checked his specialized weapons. Ryan Miller made calls to his less than reputable contacts who might know something about slave routes. The Retribution waited in its launch bay, dark and menacing, like the silent promise of what was coming for those who had dared to take children from Earth. The Retribution dropped out of faster-than-light travel near a remote space station known as Krell's Point. The station hung like a rusty spider among the asteroids, its many docking arms extending in all directions. Ships of various sizes and questionable origins clung to these arms, exchanging cargo that rarely appeared on official manifests. "Looks charming," Jack said as he studied the station through the ship's sensors. At least 30 different species down there, and most of them would sell their own mothers for the right price. Ryan Miller nodded as he adjusted his civilian clothes. "That's why we're here. This is where the Vrakians sell what they don't keep for themselves." Susan Gray checked her concealed weapon. "Remember, we need to blend in. Dr. Owens, any advice on the local customs?" Lisa looked up from her data pad. "Don't make eye contact with the four-armed Bavarians. The Huzzet people spit when they talk, so keep your distance. And whatever you do, don't comment on anyone's smell." The team used a small transport shuttle to approach the station, their military ship hidden behind a large asteroid. They docked at Arm 7, where the seediest traders gathered. The smell hit them first, a mix of alien foods, unwashed bodies, and industrial chemicals. The main trading floor was crowded with beings from across the galaxy. Music played from somewhere, a discordant tune that hurt human ears. "We split up," Susan said quietly. "Ryan, find your contacts. Jack, check their networks. Lisa and I will listen for any talk about recent slave shipments." Ryan moved through the crowd with practiced ease, stopping at a dingy bar where a three-eyed alien served drinks in filthy cups. He ordered something that looked relatively safe and waited. 20 minutes later, a hunched figure in a hooded cloak sat beside him. "You're far from home, human," the figure growled in rough English. Ryan slid a credit chip across the bar. "Looking for information on a Vrakian slave ship. Arrived about 4 days ago. Had human cargo." The hooded alien pocketed the chip. "Dangerous. Questions. The Vrakians don't like people asking about their business. I'll pay well." The alien leaned closer. Ship came through. Didn't dock long. The human young ones were separated. Some went to the mining colony on Zeltor. The valuable ones went to War Baron Kreltalk's fortress world, Khazar. Across the station, Jack had found a public terminal. While pretending to check market prices, he secretly planted a device that gave him access to the station's systems. Within minutes, he was browsing through docking records and cargo manifests. Meanwhile, Lisa had attracted the attention of a blue-skinned trader who seemed fascinated by humans. "Such strange coloring you have," the alien said, blinking multiple sets of eyelids. "Are all humans so soft-looking?" Lisa smiled diplomatically. "We're tougher than we appear. I'm actually interested in learning more about Vrakian biology for scientific purposes." The trader looked around nervously. "Not many. Study the Vrakians. They are private and dangerous, but I know things. Their scales are sensitive to certain sound frequencies. Their eyes cannot see red colors well, and they need special minerals in their diet." Susan was gathering her own intelligence, listening to conversations around the trading floor. The word human caught her attention. 2 reptilian merchants were arguing in a corner. "The small human female will bring a high price," one said. "Collectors pay extra for exotic species." Susan's hand tightened on her concealed weapon. She touched her ear communicator. "Team, I may have found one of our targets, eastern corner, near the food stalls." The team converged slowly, careful not to draw attention. Through the crowd, they could see a small holding cell. Inside was Emma Wright, the youngest of the abducted children. She sat huddled with her knees pulled to her chest, her face dirty and frightened. "We've got security guards on each side," Jack whispered. "Looks like they're preparing to move her soon." Ryan studied the area, probably taking her to the private auction block on level 3. Susan made a quick decision. "We can't wait. Lisa, create a distraction near the food court. Jack, disable the security cameras. Ryan, you and I will handle the guards." The rescue team moved into position, ready to draw first blood in this new war between humans and Vrakians. Above all, they shared one thought. No one takes human children without paying a terrible price. The rescue of Emma Wright from the trading station had gone better than expected. Dr. Lisa Owens had created a perfect distraction by knocking over a stand of smelly alien fruit, causing a chain reaction of angry merchants and spilled goods. Jack had disabled the security systems with a pulse device disguised as a credit scanner. In the chaos, Susan and Ryan had taken down the guards and freed Emma before anyone realized what was happening. Now, 5 days later, the retribution approached. The fortress world of Khazar. Emma sat in the ship's medical bay, wrapped in a blanket and sipping hot chocolate as Lisa checked her health. The twins and Kevin are still there, Emma told the team. I heard the aliens talking. They sent us to different places. The big alien with the gold neck ring said the twins were perfect specimens for his collection. Susan's jaw tightened. War Baron Krelltalk. They were mean, Emma continued, her small voice shaking. But they didn't hurt us too much. They said we were worth more if we weren't damaged. Ryan studied the holographic display of Khazar. The planet glowed an ugly red and brown, with massive fortress cities scattered across its surface. This won't be like the trading post. Khazar is heavily defended. Military-grade weapons, trained soldiers, planetary shields. Jack adjusted the ship's sensors to avoid detection. I'm picking up hundreds of ships in orbit. Defense platforms every 20 miles. Ground-to-space cannons that could split our ship in half. We need to find exactly where they're keeping the children before we make any move, Susan said. Emma, did you hear anything about where on Khazar they might be? Emma closed her eyes, trying to remember. The Goldneck alien said something. About his home being in a place that sounded like Vortak, and he wanted the twins brought there. Lisa checked her data. Vortak Valley is where the elite Vrakians live. It's their version of a luxury neighborhood. The Retribution moved into position behind one of Khazar's moons, using its natural radiation to mask their presence. From there, they could scan the EU planet without being detected. I have a plan, Susan said after studying the defenses, but it's risky. Riskier than facing down an entire military planet? Jack asked with a grim smile. Susan pointed to a small spaceport near Vortak Valley. That's where private ships land. Merchants, visitors, people bringing gifts to the War Baron. We go in disguised as traders with exotic goods. Ryan nodded slowly. I can play that part. I'll need something valuable to offer. Like advanced Earth? Technology that accidentally has tracking devices hidden inside? Jack suggested. Exactly, Susan agreed. Once we're in, Ryan makes contact while the rest of us locate the children. Jack hacks their systems from inside. We find the kids, grab them, and run. Lisa looked concerned. And what about the other children? Emma said there were more human children sent to the mines. We get what information we can about the mining. Planet Zeltor, Susan answered. The main fleet will handle that once we report back. For the next 2 days, they prepared carefully. Ryan memorized trade protocols and practiced speaking with a slight accent common among independent merchants. Jack modified some Earth devices to look impressive, but function as spy tech once inside Vrakian systems. Lisa prepared special drugs that would work on Vrakian physiology if they needed to subdue guards. The night before they were to attempt landing on Khazar, a message arrived from Admiral Winters. The fleet is assembled and ready, her hologram reported. 26 warships, including the new Dreadnought class. We're holding position at the edge of Vrakian space, awaiting your signal. Find our children and get out. Then we'll show these slavers what happens when they take what belongs to Earth. As the team made final preparations, a small shuttle docked with the Retribution. The airlock opened to reveal Frank Rivers, the security chief from New Haven Colony. I pulled some strings, he said, stepping aboard with a duffel bag of weapons. Those are my people's children down there. I'm going with you. Susan started to object, then saw the look in his eyes. It was the same look she'd seen in the mirror every day since this mission began. The look of someone who wouldn't stop until every child was safe. Welcome aboard, she said instead. We leave at dawn. The trading vessel that landed at Vortak Spaceport looked like any other merchant ship visiting Khazar. Its hull was weathered from space travel, and its cargo hold contained crates of exotic goods from across the galaxy. No one suspected it. Was actually a disguised shuttle from the Retribution. Ryan Miller, dressed in colorful trading clothes, stepped out to meet the Vrakian port officials. Two tall reptilian guards scanned him with handheld devices. "State your business," one guard demanded, vertical pupils narrowing in the bright sunlight. Ryan bowed slightly. "I bring rare items for War Baron Kreltok, Earth artifacts of great value and beauty." The mention of Earth items caught the guard's attention. The War Baron has recently developed an interest in human things. "Wait here." While Ryan distracted, the official's Jack Alvarez worked inside the ship. He placed a small device near the spaceport's main computer terminal. Within seconds, he had access to local security networks. "I'm in," Jack whispered into his hidden communicator. "Security. Codes downloaded. I can see the layout of the War Baron's estate. It's huge, like a small city." Susan Gray studied the map on her portable screen. "Any sign of holding cells or where they might keep the children?" "The North Wing has special security," Jack reported. "More guards, better locks. That's our best bet." Frank Rivers checked his weapons. "How do we get there?" "Ryan's invitation should get us through the main gate," Susan said. "From there we split up. Jack and Lisa head for the security center. Frank and I look for the children." The Vrakian official returned and handed Ryan a pass card. "The War Baron will see you tomorrow. You may bring 2 assistants to display your goods. Your ship must remain here." Ryan smiled. "Of course, I look forward to meeting the great War Baron." The next morning, a private transport took Ryan, Susan, and Frank to the War Baron's massive estate. The building rose like a mountain of black stone, with towers that pierced the red sky. Guards stood at every entrance, their scaled skin glittering in the sunlight. "Remember," Susan whispered as they approached the main gate. "We're just traders. Stay calm and stick to the plan." Inside, they were led through grand halls decorated with trophies from 100 worlds. Alien skulls lined the walls. Holographic displays showed battles and conquests. Behind each display stood silent servants from different species, their eyes downcast. War Baron Kreltok sat on a raised platform in the central hall. He was larger than other Vrakians, with golden scales around his neck and jeweled armor covering his chest. His long tail flicked impatiently as the humans approached. "Show me these Earth treasures," he commanded in a deep, rumbling voice. Ryan opened his case to reveal glittering technology and art pieces. While the War Baron examined them, Susan scanned the room for exits and guards. Frank kept his eyes on the servants looking for any human children. "These are acceptable," Kreltok finally said. "You will be paid. Now leave." Ryan bowed deeply. "Great War Baron, might I ask about the human children recently acquired? I have collectors interested in similar specimens." The War Baron's eyes narrowed. "The twin humans are not for sale. They are my prized possessions." "Of course," Ryan said smoothly. "I merely wish to admire your collection." Meanwhile, Jack and Lisa had slipped away from the landing pad. Using the security codes, they entered the estate through a service entrance. Dressed as maintenance workers, they moved through the less guarded areas. "The security center should be 1 level down," Jack whispered, checking his scanner. Lisa suddenly pulled him into a side room as a guard walked past. "We need to hurry. The others will be expecting us to disable the alarm soon." Back in the main hall, Ryan continued to distract the War Baron while Susan quietly activated her communicator. "Any progress, Jack?" "Almost there," came the reply. "But we have a problem. I'm picking up human life signs in 2 separate locations. The twins are in the North Wing as expected, but there's another signal in the lower levels." Susan made a quick decision. "Frank and I will split up. He'll go for the twins. I'll check the lower level." As they prepared to make their move, an alarm suddenly blared throughout the estate. The War Baron rose to his full height, his tail lashing angrily. "Intruders," he roared. "Secure all entrances. Protect my collection." The rescue mission had just become much more complicated. Chaos erupted in the War Baron's hall. Guards rushed in from all directions, weapons drawn. War Baron Kreltok pointed a clawed finger at Ryan. "Seize them," he ordered. "These are not traitors." Ryan reached into his case and pressed a hidden Button. Smoke burst from the Earth artifacts, filling the room with thick gray clouds. Susan pulled out her concealed weapon and fired at the nearest guards, using stun settings to avoid a bloodbath. "Split up now!" she shouted to Frank through the smoke. "Find the twins!" Frank raced toward the north wing, knocking aside a confused guard. His years of security work on New Haven made him quick and decisive. He pulled out the small scanner Jack had given him and followed the signal toward the human life signs. Susan headed in the opposite direction, fighting her way through guards to reach the lower levels. Something felt wrong about the second signal. Kevin Martinez should have been with the twins, not separated. In the security center, Jack worked frantically at a Vrakian computer while Lisa stood guard at the door. "Can you shut down the alarms?" Lisa asked anxiously. "Better than that," Jack replied with a grim smile. "I'm setting off alarms in other sections to draw guards away from our team. And, there, I've locked down all the external communications. They can't call for help." Lisa's scanner beeped. "Someone's coming." 3 Vrakian security officers burst through the door. Lisa quickly sprayed them with the compound she had developed. The Vrakians stumbled, their reptilian eyes blinking rapidly before they collapsed. "That won't last long," Lisa warned. "Maybe 10 minutes, Jack nodded. "Long enough. I've got the security feeds now." He pulled up images from around the estate. "There, the north wing. I can see the twins in some kind of display room." The screen showed Lily and Noah Bennett inside a large glass enclosure. They wore strange silver clothing and looked frightened but unharmed. Frank was already in the hallway outside their room, fighting with 2 guards. "And the other signal?" Lisa asked. Jack switched feeds to show the lower levels. What they saw made them both gasp. Susan was approaching a laboratory where Kevin Martinez was strapped to a table. Vrakian scientists stood around him, holding sampling tools and scanning devices. "They're experimenting on him," Lisa whispered, in horror. "We need to get him out now." Susan had reached the laboratory door. Using the security code Jack had provided, she slipped inside and hid behind a large equipment cabinet. There were 5 Vrakians in the room, all focused on Kevin. The boy was conscious but groggy, his eyes half closed. On her communicator, Susan whispered, "Jack, can you cause a distraction down here?" "Working on it," Jack replied. Seconds later, the lights in the laboratory flickered and went out. Emergency lights came on, bathing the room in dim red glow. Susan moved quickly in the confusion, stunning 2 scientists before they knew what was happening. The others turned to fight, but she was faster, trained for exactly this kind of close combat. Within moments, all 5 Vrakians were down. "Kevin, it's okay," she said softly as she released his restraints. "I'm from Earth. We're here to take you home." The boy looked at her with disbelief and hope. "The others?" he managed to ask. "We're getting them too," Susan promised, helping him sit up. "Can you walk?" Meanwhile, Frank faced his own challenges. After defeating the guards, he found himself unable to open the twins' enclosure. The glass was too thick to break. "Stand back from the door," he called to the children. They moved away, huddling together at the far wall. Frank placed a small charge against the lock mechanism. The controlled explosion sent shards of metal flying, but the door slid open. Lily and Noah ran to him, tears streaming down their faces. "Are you really from Earth?" Noah asked, his voice shaking. "Yes," Frank said, kneeling to their level. "I'm from New Haven, just like you. Your parents sent us to bring you home." "All of us?" Lily asked. "All of you," Frank confirmed, checking his scanner. "We've got Emma safe already. Now we need to find Kevin and get out of here." His communicator crackled. "Frank, I've got Kevin," Susan's voice came through. "Meet at extraction point B in 10 minutes. As Frank led the twins through the corridors following Jack's directions to avoid guard patrols, an alarm different from the others began to sound. War Baron Kreltalk's voice echoed through the building. "The human female has been captured. Bring all security forces to the central chamber immediately." Susan was in trouble. Susan Gray hadn't been captured, but she was heavily outnumbered. After rescuing Kevin from the laboratory, they had been cornered in a service corridor by 6 Vrakian guards. She had managed to get Kevin into a small maintenance closet just before the guards surrounded her. "Stay hidden until someone from our team comes," she had whispered to the boy before closing the door. Now Susan stood in the central chamber, her hands bound in front of her with metal restraints. War Baron Kreltok circled her slowly, his tail dragging across the polished floor. "Where are the rest of your team?" he demanded. "How many ships did Earth send?" Susan remained silent, her eyes forward. The War Baron struck her across the face with the back of his clawed hand. A thin line of blood appeared on her cheek. "Your primitive species does not understand galactic power," Kreltok hissed. "The Vrakian Confederacy has ruled this sector. For 1,000 years, we take what we want." "You took the wrong thing this time," Susan replied calmly. The War Baron laughed, a harsh sound like rocks grinding together. "Your children will make fine slaves. The strong ones work in our mines. The special ones become part of our collections. Perhaps I will add you to my collection as well." In the security center, Jack and Lisa watched the scene on the monitors with growing concern. "We need to help her," Lisa said urgently. Jack nodded. "Working on it. But first we need to make sure the kids are safe." He switched to another camera feed that showed Frank leading the Bennett twins through a service tunnel. They're almost at the extraction point. Frank moved carefully, keeping the children behind him as he checked each corner. The twins held hands, their faces streaked with dirt and tears but showing determined bravery. "Are we going to find Kevin too?" Noah asked. Frank nodded. "Major Gray has him. We'll meet them soon." But when they reached the extraction point, a small cargo loading area near the edge of the estate, only Ryan was there, hiding behind some crates. "Where's Susan?" Frank asked, checking his weapon. "She has Kevin." Ryan's face was grim. "She's been captured. The War Baron is interrogating her in the central chamber." "And Kevin?" "Still missing. Susan must have hidden him somewhere." Frank made a quick decision. "You get the twins back to the ship, I'll find Kevin and rescue Susan." "Not alone," Ryan argued. "That's suicide." "I'm not asking," Frank said firmly. "These are my colony's children. I'll get them out or die trying." In his earpiece, Jack's voice suddenly came through. "Frank, I can guide you to where Susan was last seen with Kevin. There's a maintenance corridor on level 3, section D." Frank nodded. "Get the twins safely away. I'll meet you at the ship with Kevin and Susan." As Ryan led the twins toward the exit, Frank moved deeper into the estate, following Jack's directions. Guards were everywhere now, but most were heading toward the central chamber where Susan was being held. Frank found the corridor Jack had described and began checking doors. Behind the third one, he found Kevin huddled in darkness. "Mr. Rivers?" the boy whispered in disbelief. "From New Haven?" "That's right, son," Frank said, helping Kevin to his feet. "Let's get you out of here." "But the lady who saved me, we're going to help her too." Meanwhile, in the central chamber, Susan was enduring more questions from the War Baron. She had been buying time, knowing that every minute she kept his attention was another minute for her team to escape with the children. "Your Earth weapons cannot harm our ships," Kreltok boasted. "Your technology is primitive compared to ours." Susan smiled slightly. "Then why are you so afraid of us?" The War Baron struck her again. "I fear nothing." "Then why interrogate me?" Susan asked. "If we're so weak, why worry about how many ships we sent?" Before Kreltok could answer, Jack's voice came over the estate's communication system. "Attention, all Vrakians. This is Earth Alliance Command. We have activated self-destruct protocols in our captured agent. Clear the central chamber immediately." The War Baron's eyes widened in alarm. Several guards backed away from Susan. "Lies!" Kreltok shouted. "They are trying to—" He never finished his sentence. The walls shook as a massive explosion rocked the eastern wing of the estate, a diversion set by Jack to cause exactly this kind of panic. In the confusion, Susan saw her chance. With the guards distracted, she smashed her restrained hands into the closest guard's face, then rolled across the floor to grab his dropped weapon. From behind a pillar at the chamber entrance, Frank appeared, firing at the guards while Susan ran toward him. "Kevin?" she asked as they took cover together. "Safe. Frank replied. Ready to get out of here? Frank and Susan ran through the burning estate, Kevin between them. Guards shouted behind them, but the confusion from Jack's explosion gave them the advantage they needed. They reached the service tunnels where Ryan had taken the Bennett twins earlier. Jack, where are you and Lisa? Susan called into her communicator. Heading to the landing pad, Jack replied. I've downloaded everything about Vrakian defenses and the location of the mining planet Zeltor. Lisa grabbed their biological research too. The estate's emergency sirens blared as fire spread through the eastern wing. Frank guided them through the maze of tunnels using the map Jack had sent to his device. They emerged near the private landing pads where smaller ships were kept. There's our extraction shuttle. Susan pointed to a small craft guarded by 2 Vrakians. Frank handed Kevin to her. Get him aboard. I'll handle the guards. Before Susan could object, Frank charged forward. The Vrakian guards raised their weapons, but Frank was faster. Years of training made his movements precise and deadly. In seconds, both guards were down, and he was waving Susan forward. The shuttle door opened to reveal Ryan at the controls. Inside, the Bennett twins rushed to hug Kevin. All 3 children cried with relief at being reunited. Where are Jack and Lisa? Susan asked as she climbed aboard. On their way, Ryan replied, warming up the engines. 10 seconds out. The shuttle ramp remained open as Jack and Lisa sprinted across the landing pad, pursued by more guards. Lisa stumbled and Jack turned back to help her up. A blast from a Vrakian weapon hit the ground beside them, showering them with sparks. Frank leaned out of the shuttle, firing his weapon to provide cover. Hurry! He shouted. Jack and Lisa made it to the ramp just as more guards poured onto the landing pad. The shuttle lifted off with the ramp still closing, narrowly avoiding enemy fire. We made it, Jack gasped, catching his breath. All of us. The shuttle accelerated away from the planet's surface, racing to reach the retribution hidden behind Khazar's moon. Behind them, more ships began to launch. Vrakian fighters sent to pursue them. They're on our tail, Ryan warned from the pilot's seat. And there's a battlecruiser moving to cut us off. Susan smiled grimly. Perfect timing. Send the signal. Ryan pressed a sequence on the communication panel. A simple message transmitted into space. Package secure. All Eagles retrieved. For a moment nothing happened. The Vrakian ships continued to close in, weapons charging. Then space itself seemed to tear open as multiple Earth Alliance warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel directly in front of them. The children pressed their faces to the viewports in amazement. 26 massive ships, led by the enormous Dreadnought Justice, formed a wall between the shuttle and its pursuers. The Vrakian ships hesitated, suddenly outgunned and outmatched. Admiral Winter's voice came through the shuttle's speakers. Rescue team, welcome back. Bring our children home. We'll handle things from here. As the shuttle docked with the Retribution, the Earth fleet moved into attack position. Admiral Winters opened a channel to all Vrakian frequencies. This is Earth Alliance Admiral Patricia Winters. You abducted children from our colony. This act constitutes a declaration of war against humanity. Surrender all human captives immediately, or face the consequences. From the Retribution's bridge, the team and the rescued children watched as the Vrakian battlecruiser fired the first shot. The Earth Alliance fleet responded with overwhelming force. The battle was brief and decisive. Within hours, War Baron Kreltok was brought aboard the Justice to formally surrender. His eyes widened in shock when he saw the human children standing with Admiral Winters. Impossible, he muttered. No one escapes from Khazar. Admiral Winters smiled coldly. You made a fundamental mistake, War Baron. You took our children. There is nothing in this galaxy more dangerous than humans protecting their young. The Vrakian Confederacy surrendered unconditionally 3 days later. All human captives were released from the mines of Zeltor. The Haven Accord was signed, ending slavery in Vrakian space forever. 1 month later, Frank Rivers stood with the Bennett twins, Kevin Martinez, and Emma Wright as they were reunited with their families on New Haven Colony. The children were thin and shaken, but alive and healing. Will they come back? Noah asked Frank quietly during the celebration. Frank shook his head. No. They learned an important lesson about humans. He looked at the stars above the colony. You don't take what's ours, especially not our children.